West Virginia County, what are the health effects of having these drugs in our drinking water?
It's forced medical treatment without the consent of residents.
My friends, water filtration is one of the most basic actions you can take to protect you and your family from the harmful toxins and heavy metals in your tap water.
On average, the county says it sprays with the glyphosate at least once a week.
Few filters cut out the glyphosates that is found in water supplies worldwide. Remove pesticides, herbicides, chloramines, hydrofluorosilicic acid, sodium hexafluorosilicate.
Fluoride is in tea, it's in coffee, it's in water, it's in bread, it's in toothpaste.
It is our responsibility to protect our families. The establishment's not going to do it. It's time to take action. It's time to filter our water.
Go to INFOWARSstore.com today, and for a limited time, use the promo code WATER20 and get 20% off all Pro Pure products. Again, that's INFOWARSstore.com, or give our crew a call at 888-253-3139.
The knowledge of the ancients, tried and true, trusted herbs and extracts fused with the latest nutraceutical science. Introducing the all-new Ancient Defense Herbal Immunity Blend, crafted with over 14 key ancient herbs and extracts to supercharge and prepare your body for what experts admit is the most dangerous season of the year. We have rejected hundreds of other formulations in our quest to bring you what is simply the most powerful and comprehensive proprietary formula that we have ever created in the realm of herbal immunity. For the last 2 years, our team has been working with top doctors, nutritionists, and chemists to develop the ultimate nutraceutical formulation. Experience the benefits of combining over 14 ancient herbs and extracts with exciting new advances in nutraceutical science. For a limited time, get 25% off on this introductory offer. Visit ancientdefense.com or call 888-253-3139. ancientdefense.com.
Baltimore's local rate of employment fell below the national average, according to the Bureau of Labor Statistics. 20.7% of Baltimore's employment is made up by city, state, and federal government workers. The national average is 15%. This bureaucratic stronghold, just 50 miles from Washington, D.C., has been run by Democrats for decades. Yet it ranks 7th as the most segregated city in the United States in a Brown University data project. The city council is completely Democratic. Mayor Stephanie Rawlings Blake had a top leadership position in the Democratic National Committee and provides key input into Obama's Task Force on Policing, an initiative to federalize local and state police. State's Attorney Marilyn Mosby, who is presiding over the 6 charged officers, is a Democrat. It still remains to be seen if she may have overcharged the officers, putting the case in jeopardy. Maryland's 7th Congressional District, which is overseen by Baltimore Representative Elijah Cummings, has been an incumbent since 1996. Apparently, the Democratic base in Baltimore is completely useless if the transformation of Baltimore into a shining example of Democratic hyper-governance has never occurred. And why does the country need to search its soul, or more importantly, federalize state and local police departments immediately after the events in Baltimore?
Since Ferguson and the task force that we put together, we have seen too many instances of what appears to be police officers interacting with individuals, primarily African American, often poor, in ways that raise troubling questions. And it comes up, it seems like, once a week now, or once every couple of weeks. Coming out of the task force that we put together, we're now working with local communities. Department of Justice has just announced a grant program for those jurisdictions that want to purchase body cameras. We are going to be issuing grants for those jurisdictions that are prepared to start trying to implement some of the new training and data collection and other things that can make a difference. And we're going to keep on working with those local jurisdictions so that they can begin to make the changes that are necessary.
President Obama has unleashed his Cloward Piven-style rhetoric via his advisor and race relations bulldog, Al Sharpton, a former coke-dealing FBI informant who rose to prominence on the back of the Tawana Brawley race-baiting theater of lies, a man who has mysteriously suffered 2 suspicious fires exonerating his financial records from persecution, and is currently under fire for taking major donations for his nonprofit from labor unions that aired their hyperbole on his cable show. Al Sharpton, a man that was seen as a pariah to the Eric Garner and Walter Scott families.
Well, does the family have any messages for anybody who might want to come into the community and incite violence or rallies or anything like that?
Yes, the message is, what's the point? Seeing that happen in other places, that does nothing whatsoever to help the situation. It only makes it worse.
Is embraced by the Obama administration.
He has had Al Sharpton to the White House 80, 85 times. Often when he's talking about police issues, he has Al Sharpton sitting next to him. You put Al Sharpton next to you, you just told everyone, I'm against the police.
We're going to do this march from here to Washington. We need the Justice Department to step in and take over policing in this country. In the 20th century, they had to fight states' rights and to get the right to vote. We're going to have to fight states' rights in terms of closing down police cases.
The only group to do that is the federal government itself, openly run by 5 foreign mega banks that own the private Federal Reserve. But now Al Sharpton says it's going to be the police, and that means your local counties and your cities. That means your sheriffs that the feds have been for 50 years trying to fund initiatives at the state level to have your police departments take over your sheriff's departments. That is backwards. The counties are chartered by the state. The sheriffs are elected. If a municipal government, the lowest level of government, wishes to vote for the citizens to raise taxes to create a police force under municipal law, they are allowed to.
Clearly advocating the rollout of the 1961 U.S. Department of State 7277 plan that would have the police forces disarmed, martial law on the streets, and the graduation of a United Nations International Police Force to protect the corporocratic government as it exponentially grows into a new world order.
We are trying to act as though these are problems that you can handle in isolation. There must be a national response to a national issue. And we can't keep running like hamsters.
I worry about you, brother, because you could be easily manipulated by those in the White House who do have the interests of Wall Street oligarchs, who do have the interests of corporate plutocrats, and you oppose, but you end up being the public face.
John Bound for INFOWARS.com.
Now, I find it amazing that at the same time we have legislation all over this country being introduced to take away our informed consent, to force us to take pharmaceutical injections, we also have safe and effective medication that is prohibited, strongly prohibited. And of course, I'm talking about medical marijuana. A shout out to Republican Governor Nathan Deal of Georgia, who this week, flanked by dozens of families with children suffering from rare and intractable medical conditions, stood on the steps of the state capitol and signed the state's first medical marijuana bill into law. Now, the headline from Vice.com, the heartbreaking plight of Colorado's marijuana refugees. That's what I want to talk about. Understand that these are people who had medical conditions that they could get absolutely no relief for their children. They became medical refugees going to Colorado so they could get effective medication. They had to flee their homes. And these families that were standing there, he said, "This has certainly touched my heart." The teary-eyed governor told reporters and others assembled for the signing, "I am pleased today that we are going to make a difference." And he turned to the families that were standing on the staircases that had to run away to another state so they could get medical treatment for their children. And he said, "You can come home now." People don't realize how this affects individual families. We've had David Simpson, the legislator here in Texas, who has bravely introduced another Republican fighting his own party to introduce medical marijuana legislation because he has compassion. It breaks my heart to see that the people who are fighting this the most, in most cases, are Christians with a misplaced trust in the government's use of force to change lives. Listen to this particular situation, because many times we have to listen to individual stories to really put this in perspective. Now, they're talking to these marijuana refugees. One of them is Jania Cox. Her 5-year-old daughter is the one who actually they named the bill after. They called it Haley's Hope. It legalizes certain low THC cannabis strains and oils for serious medical conditions. Now, Haley suffers from a rare epileptic condition that without treatment racks her body with hundreds of seizures a day. A little over a year ago, Haley's medical condition had deteriorated so drastically that her breathing stopped several times a day. She was at death's door. And in search of alternative treatment for her daughter, Cox moved from Georgia to Colorado, where another Georgia native, Jason Cranford, had moved in 2009 to develop a low THC strain of marijuana for pediatric use. Now, he says, it's hard to put your child on marijuana, quote unquote, but to see how it works, there is no way you can write it off. She went from having 200 seizures a day to about 10 to 15 on a bad day. And she's had 28 seizure-free days since they moved to Colorado. He says now she's talking more, she's making eye contact. I think the best thing is she smiles at us now. Before, she was in almost a comatose state. She was awake, but just out of it. Why are we holding this back from people? Why are we putting people in jail for this? This is absolute insanity. No, it's not insanity. It makes perfectly good sense. If you understand that our country is run by ruthless multinational corporations that'll do anything to anyone for a buck. And that's what this is all about. Throwing people in jail because they can make money out of the prison system as well. And it's law enforcement, it's the government, they are all partners in this crime, in this sin. And it grieves me to see that there are so many well-intentioned, I think, but just blind Christians who are jumping on this prohibition bandwagon after 40 years. Now, when David Simpson introduced this bill, he talked about some families who are suffering from seizures. Some of them were suffering from things that had happened to them because of the vaccines. But we are going to be mandated to take vaccines and prohibited from getting medical marijuana. Now, if you want to really know what's happening with this drug war, look at the other side of it. When you use a gun and a hammer to try to solve every problem, what do you get? You get swatted with that hammer. In South Florida, this is an article from INFOWARS.com today. In South Florida, SWAT raids are netting minimal drugs and are often turning deadly. When they militarize themselves to that point, they say it is total overkill, and it is. Now, I want to read you this particular instance here. This is somebody that was SWAT teamed with a very small amount of drugs on it. And they break this down in the Miami NewTimes.com breaks this down. They say the SWAT team snakes behind a one-story pink and yellow house an hour before dawn breaks over a silent working-class block in Hallandale Beach as the heavily armed cops in black military gear pour into the small backyard, tank a 15-year-old pit bull, a 15-year-old dog, rises from the concrete ground, straining at his metal chain. One cop aims and shoots the dog, killing it. Another officer smashes open the back door, hurls in a flash grenade. Officer Michael McKenzie, a burly cop covered in bulletproof gear, armed with an automatic shotgun, bursts into the narrow kitchen. He is suddenly face to face with the man that he's come looking for, Howard Bowe, Jr., a bearded 34-year-old with a chubby face and long dreads, wearing only a T-shirt and boxers. McKenzie screams at Bowe to get down. Seconds later, he shoots him with the automatic shotgun twice in the stomach. In the next apartment, Howard's sister hears her brother scream, "Why'd you shoot me?" he yells. His son, 16-year-old son, freezes in bed on the other side of the house. Suddenly, the door's kicked open. 3 SWAT gear-clad officers storm into his room. "Don't move," one cop shouts, grabbing hold of the teenager, pulling him out of the bed. "What's going on?" the teenager asks. 20 minutes later, from the back of a police van, the teenager watches his father, who's still conscious, and with a dazed look in his eye, rolled out of the house on a stretcher, he asks, "Why did y'all shoot me?" This time, very weakly. Within hours, Bowe would fall into a coma. 10 days later, he would be dead. The police admitted that Bowe was unarmed when he was shot. They said he had no weapons in the house. Later, they found 16 grams of cocaine. More than a personal stash, but hardly a drug trafficker's hoard. See, we have tyranny, we have martial law, we have it now. You have to understand that's what this is. This isn't a conspiracy theory. We've been telling you where this would lead. People can't believe, and people would not have believed 20 years ago that this type of thing would be happening on such a regular basis, but it is. That's why you need to pay attention to what's going on with our military. Don't salute the uniform, salute the people who obey their oath to the Constitution. And it is civilians who need to understand, who need to direct the mission of the military